Hello. I figured I'd go ahead and start the stream. It's not quite time to start the meeting yet. But hi, Jess. See, there's two people viewing. I don't know who the other one is. How are you doing? Oh, hey, Daphne. Hi, Brandon. Hi, Janet. I was just trying to figure out the number of people in the room are different than the number of people who've spoken to me. But I guess that takes a few minutes to update. Anyway, we can go ahead and begin. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Hi, Shani. I think I've said hello to everybody now. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present. It fills our sacred space, guards our minds from wrong thinking. Fragrance of this incense unites us with virtue, mindfulness, and wisdom. We offer it on behalf of all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for refuge. Being one with the Buddha, I resolve to each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for refuge. Being one with the Dharma, the gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for refuge. Being one with the Sangha in the spirit of universal fellowship and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. So it's the last Wednesday of the month, and we'll do a 20-minute silent meditation. And I'll use Insight Timer to time that. So if you want to use the timer and mute your sound, you can do that, starting right now. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now. In reciting the sutras, hearing the Dharma, and training the mind, great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great Master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to all ancestors of the Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of the Sangha. Let their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for the health and well-being of those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, and those ministering to the sick and the grieving. We pray for those suffering from violence, for the oppressed, the imprisoned, and all refugees. Let's take a moment also to send thoughts to those who are dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Ian in Cuba and South Florida, wherever the storm has affected people. May they be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. Sabbe sata sadahantu avera sukajivino katang punya phalang mahang sabbe bhagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share in the blessings springing from the good we have done. Move a little closer. So you're welcome, Jess. So I had planned to talk tonight about the second noble truth, which is the truth of the causes of suffering. But as you might expect, and as I'm sure, I think everybody who said hello in the room is local, so you're dealing with the same kind of conditions I am, and I'm sure your plans have been kind of all over the place the last few days too, like mine have. Anyway, my what I thought I was going to be doing and what I was doing have changed constantly for the last couple of days. So I haven't really thought about that Dharma talk. I could talk extemporaneously on it, but I would rather actually outline my thoughts. I think it would be better. There's a lot you could talk about on that subject. In fact, you could do a whole book on what causes stress and suffering. And so I'd like to do about 20 minutes that's actually meaningful and significant. So I mentioned all this because I don't have anything to talk about other than we're having a storm. If there's power, and all of that, as far as I know, the rest of the week's meetings will go as expected. But if there's no power, then, there won't be meetings. Hopefully where I am is far enough away from where the category almost 5 landed, that by the time it gets here, it'll just be more rain. We've had a lot of that and a little bit of wind, and we can survive that. So anyway, if there's anything in particular that you have on your mind that you'd like for me to talk about, any questions you have, please feel free to post them. And in the meantime, I was actually thinking several years ago, it was on an anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. I talked about at White Sands or Palaca, one or the other, about, the winds of change. And because, a hurricane is a good, good metaphor for how our lives can suddenly change very dramatically. And we need to be prepared for that. And a big part of the purpose of spiritual practice is to be not create difficulties for yourself that that you can avoid, but also to be prepared for those things that arise that you can't really prepare for in many senses of the word, but you can do what you can to be ready physically, mentally, and spiritually for difficulties like this. And it's hard not to be worried. It's hard not to be at least concerned. But do what you can. There's a fairly famous quote by somebody. I think I've seen it attributed to the Dalai Lama, but I'm not sure that's who it was. It was something like, I don't worry, there's no point in worrying. And, because if you're worried about something that you can do something about, then there's no point in worrying about it. Do whatever you can do. And if you can't do anything about it, then there's no point in worrying about it because there's nothing you can do. And the reality is, this is going to be what it is. Hopefully all of us are in fairly sound houses and pretty safe places, as safe as you can be in circumstances like this. And, we will endure the inconveniences that come with losses of power and that kind of thing. And, I don't know where you all are, but I find that an awful lot of the time people become very neighborly when things get hard. That 2004 season where we had one right after another, I got to know neighbors that I'd lived near for a couple of years, and had never talked to. And then all of a sudden we're helping each other out with stuff. So that's a good thing. Anyway, I hope that you all are safe and dry and that you come through this with minimal disruption to your lives. And, and if so, if you have a chance to help other people, this is a good opportunity to do that. I'm always reminded of this famous exchange between So and Roshi and one of his students. And the student, they were talking about meditation. It was during a Zen retreat. And the student said, I'm not, he was worried about his meditation. He was having difficulty concentrating. He wasn't getting anywhere. And he said, I'm so discouraged. What can I do? And so, and Roshi said, encourage others. And, and that's true with our lives much of the time. If we're looking inside at our own stress, which, we don't want to reject our own stress. It's there. It's part of being human. Don't condemn yourself for feeling stressed or worried or whatever. But we don't really need to focus on it very much. When we look outside at what can we do to help others, that tends to make our experience a lot nicer, a lot easier. So anyway, we're, as you can see, we're in good shape here. We're dry. House has a good roof on it. So far got power. So somebody asked me in an email, because I sent out that thing about the change in plans. Somebody asked me how our dog does with storms. So Dee actually does quite well. He's they don't bother him, except that he won't go outside, which that has its impact as well on the household. But we deal with that. But like he's walked twice today. Usually by this time of day, he's been outside about 4 times. And he We got some breaks in the rain and went for a walk. But otherwise, he's pretty happy. He gets real snuggly when it's like this. Well, I don't see any questions. So if we don't have any questions, if there's not any, okay, here we go. So I can't tell you why Brahmins do or don't do what they do. That's not my tradition, and it's not really my area of expertise. Although Brahmins, that's they're priests, and they're a certain social class also, and so there may be a cultural thing there. But Buddhist monks shave their heads because the Buddha cut his hair. So in the Buddha's day, people of high social standing, royalty, he was the son of a king, more or less, and so they grew their hair long, and he kept it in a top knot, a big thing bundled up on top of his head. And so when he left the palace to go to seek the spiritual life, he took out his knife and he cut the top knot off of his head and handed it to his attendant who had gone with him should back up and tell the rest of the story, I guess. But he had decided that he was going to go. These are some good questions. I'm glad y'all are asking. He decided that he was going to go into homelessness and to go live the holy life and try to find a way out of suffering. And so he had seen some holy men passing by near the palace. And so he decided to follow them. So he saddled up his horse, or had his attendant saddle up his horse, and accompany him to where these holy men were encamped by the river. Or maybe on the other side of the river. Anyway, and so when he got there, he took off his finery, his nice clothes, cut off the top knot, and put on the robes of a mendicant, of an ascetic, and went off to join the holy man. And so that removing the long hair of his social class was an act of renunciation. And so when we ordain, we do the same thing. We shave our heads as a part of the act of renunciation. We're letting go of that part of our appearance, that attachment to that. And it's I've done it a couple of times in different ordination settings. When I ordained in the Thai order, which was a fairly brief, short-term ordination, which they'll do in the Thai Buddhism, I had stopped cutting my hair. I was going to go get a haircut on September 11th, 2001, and after the planes crashed, I didn't feel like making an appointment. I didn't feel like doing that. And then I just stopped cutting my hair, and I had a ponytail like down to the middle of my back nearly. And so, that all went away when I became a monk. And my mom, actually, when you become a monk, your mother makes the first cut on your hair. And so my mom loved cutting off my ponytail. I was like the high point of her year that year. So I hope that answered your question. Again, I can't tell you about the Brahmins other than you're born a Brahmin and then you're trained a Brahmin. There's not a moment where you renounce, the householder life. So you wouldn't be doing that as an act of renunciation. The sadhus in India, the ones, the yogis and ascetics, some of them will go never cut their hair again, let it become matted and things like that as part of ascetic practice. So, this custom, our custom goes back almost 2,600 years. So anyway, so in our prayers and chants, we use a mix of English and other languages. Why not just English? So that's a really good question. And I've thought about it. And there are orders and traditions that do that. First of all, there are words, terminology that just don't translate to English directly anyway. Karma, for example. Now, you might not have thought of karma as being one of those words, one of those other languages, but it's because it's in such common use in the West now, the word karma. But it's, it means action, but it also implies the effects of action. And if you said, all evil actions ever committed by me since of old, it just wouldn't quite have the same impact. Words like Tathagata. So that's a Sanskrit word. By the way, karma, I usually, depending on where you go, you'll either get karma, Karma, which is Sanskrit, or kama, Kamma, because some traditions use Pali and some Sanskrit. I go with what's most commonly recognized in most cases. Because like I said, a lot of these terms don't translate directly to English words. And so a lot of them have become kind of a part of the vernacular, karma being one of those. So, but I wear the Tathagata's teaching. So the Tathagata refers to the Buddha, but in a kind of specific way. It's the one come from suchness, basically, or the one come from thusness. And so actually penetrating what that means, and that's a whole other Dharma talk I'm not going to try to answer today. But, that's significant to learn what that means. And so part of it really is to learn, if you learn what the word means, you kind of learn the principle behind the word. Some of it, so like I use the homage to the Buddha in Pali that comes from Theravada Buddhism that's probably about as old a recitation as you can find and about as universal a recitation as you can find. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. It's Pali, but it might be identical in Sanskrit. I'm not sure. But you see that recited across many different traditions. And it means, I revere the blessed one, the pure one, the rightly self-awakened one. It has a certain, I included it in our service because it connects us, I think, to this tradition of practice that goes back 2,500 years. Metta, the word metta. So the Sanskrit equivalent is maitri, but you see the word metta used more in the West because it's kind of been adopted from some other traditions. There's not a good translation. There's not one word that really explains it. Goodwill is as close as you can get. Some people use loving kindness. I don't like that. For one thing, it's kind of a made up word. For another, I don't know. I don't think it's very accurate. Goodwill is pretty close, but I don't think it includes the sort of empathetic understanding of the happiness of others. So I use metta. Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, again, they mean fairly specific things. Those are words. Buddha, Pali or Sanskrit, Dharma or Dhamma in Pali, Sangha in Pali or Sanskrit. they mean pretty specific things. The dedication of merit that I use, again, goes back to the very basic, the classical Buddhism, the teachings of the Buddha, and very, very early on. And I chose this one because, again, it connects us to the roots of our practice, I think. And when Volusia Buddhist Fellowship was getting started, we didn't have an ordained teacher when we first started. In fact, when we first started, we didn't have any teacher at all of any variety. And the idea was that there were people who wanted to practice Buddhism together. And they said, well, let's have a meeting and see what happens. And so one of the things that happened was that Michelle and I showed up. Michelle actually first, and then she kind of encouraged me to come later. And we ended up sort of inheriting, probably within a year, the people who had founded the group weren't around anymore. They moved away and stuff. And so we had some members who had spent some time in Theravada Buddhism and were pretty steeped in that. And my first formal training was in Theravada Buddhism. Same with Michelle. And so we, because of this sort of founding group of members, we felt like that would still kind of connect us to the basis of our practice. And I kept it because I like that we remind ourselves that this practice has been around for a long time, that there's a tradition here that goes back that far, and that we're not making this up as we go along, that this tradition is there. And I also like what that particular dedication says: all beings, may they live happily, free from animosity. May all beings share in the blessings that arise from our practice. From the good we've done, let's share it all. So anyway, hope that helps. If you go to White Sands, it's a Vietnamese monastery. They do some stuff in Vietnamese. At one time, I was asking if they could do more with the English translations. And I think somebody said, are you suggesting that we do away with the Vietnamese in there? And I said, no, I think you need to keep it. Because, it was founded as a place for Vietnamese people to come together and practice Vietnamese Buddhism. And that's important. That's important to remember. Just like, Buddhist Temple of Chicago, it'd be unlikely that anybody there speaks Japanese anymore, but some of the stuff that they do needs to be in Japanese because that's where it comes from. Anyway, we'll probably do some more with Japanese during some services because we have some roots there. But yeah, I know it gets confusing, but by learning to navigate that, it's like training in any discipline. You have to learn the terminology, and learning the terminology teaches the principles and practices, or helps you learn them. Any other questions? Okay, well, those were good ones. And I hope that my answers clarified that for you. And, you're welcome. You're both welcome. This practice is really about living a life more authentically. And there's always a danger, that you learn to say some exotic words, do some special practices, and you forget that it's really about living your life authentically. So, I hope that you find language for these things, translating them in your mind or just working them out in your heart, that is meaningful to you. And not worry too much about what the scholars might say something means, but make it relevant to your own life and what will make me live a deeper, more authentic existence. So anyway. All right, well, if there's nothing else, we can do the 4 vows. 4 great vows. Creations are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. The enlightened way is unsurpassable, I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. The enlightened way is unsurpassable, I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to transform them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. The enlightened way is unsurpassable, I vow to embody it. Friends, I respectfully remind you, life and death are of supreme importance. Time swiftly passes by and opportunity is lost. Each of us must strive to awaken. Awaken, take heed, do not squander this life. Thank you all, and I will see you again soon. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.